Come on, Groove. All right, we're back. Today we're going to talk about adrenaline resistance. Grover, what are you doing? You have too much adrenaline going on today, huh? Well, adrenaline is another master hormone, just like leptin and insulin, which I discussed in previous clips. Here's the thing about adrenaline. Whenever we get in a stressful situation or whenever we need energy instantly, we release adrenaline. And adrenaline actually goes to stored body fat in the stomach, because we have a lot of adrenaline receptors there. So ideally, adrenaline actually burns up stomach fat whenever you need energy. The reason why we accumulate some fat around the stomach is because it's easily accessible and usable whenever we need energy for stress. That's why a lot of people that are under stress tend to accumulate more calories there, more fat there. But here's the thing about adrenaline. When you develop adrenaline resistance, this means the receptors in your stomach or in your hips, stubborn fat areas, they become resistant, where they're no longer picking up the signal. They're no longer sensitive. So what happens then is your brain thinks that you're starving, even though you have a lot of fat in your stomach. So what happens is you keep eating and accumulating more calories there instead of burning up those calories for energy when you're under stress. So the key is you got to practice stress reduction. In addition to the nutrition tips, make sure you sleep 8 hours per night. Most people don't sleep 8 hours or even close to it. And even if they lie down for 6-7 hours, they're tossing and turning. So you need to make sure you improve the quality of your sleep. You need to make sure that you have a relaxation program. If you train really intense, you need to have restoration exercises as well, such as Qigong or Tai Chi or walking meditation, deep breathing exercises. This is all very important because otherwise you're just doing adrenaline-based training, and you need to do restoration-based training as well to avoid adrenaline resistance. Then you need to make sure you cut out all the crap that causes inflammation, like sugar, foods that you're sensitive to. A food sensitivity test is a good idea. Lifeextension.org does a food sensitivity test. And this basically tells you which foods you have an inflammatory response to, which ones you have an aggressive immune response to. Because when you eat foods that you're sensitive to, your body treats it as a foreign invader and initiates an aggressive immune response. Doesn't necessarily mean that the food is the issue. It means that you have GI tract issues, so you need to take out the culprits, let your GI tract heal, and then you can probably introduce a lot of the foods that were culprits back after you've had some GI tract healing. If you don't have a healthy GI tract, you can forget about hormone optimization or fat loss. The gut is where all of our extraction of nutrition takes place. It's where our immune system is largely, and it's also where we produce a lot of growth hormone when we're on an empty stomach via the hormone ghrelin. So you need to have a really healthy GI tract, and that's something I'll discuss at another clip, just a couple of different supplements and dietary recommendations for GI tract health. Because IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, is a pretty big problem nowadays. And that's basically just a fancy word for you either have to run to the bathroom all the time, you have diarrhea, or you can't go to the bathroom, you're constipated. So when you have IBS, you're basically miserable. It's not possible to be a happy camper when you have IBS. Now, a couple more things with adrenaline resistance. Why do you have a lot of stress in the first place? This is a good question to ask yourself. Is it relationship stress? Is it work-related stress? Is it both? Is it some other stresses? What can you do to eradicate those stresses, not manage them? Managing is an illusion. You don't manage stress. If someone stabs me with a knife, I'm not going to try to manage that pain. I'm going to get treated. I'm going to eradicate that pain. So you have to focus on what can you do to eradicate stress. Also keep this in mind. There was a study done with baboons a while back, and it was on PBS. They showed this study where some anthropologists went out in the wild. They tranquilized baboons from afar. They didn't chase them down in cars and then shoot them with their tranquilizer gun. They shot them from afar so that the baboons never saw it coming. And then what they did is they did a lot of hormone testing. They checked their blood. They checked their blood for hormones and cholesterol and so forth. And what they found was very interesting. The alpha males, the baboons that are at the top of the totem pole, the ones that run the whole shebang, they had optimal hormones, great cholesterol levels, low cortisol, low stress hormone levels, basically the epitome of health. While the baboons that are lower on the totem pole, the ones that are at the mercy of circumstances, had the opposite. High cholesterol, high insulin levels, low hormones, low sex hormone levels, low DHEA, high cortisol. So they were the opposite. And what they extrapolated from this is this. you need to take charge of your life. You need to have a career that satisfies you, that nourishes you. You need to have a personal life that is supportive. You can't be around losers and expect to have a fulfilling and enjoyable life. You can't work for a job for 40, 50 years, which is totally depressing to think about it, for the rest of your life and just be miserable. It's just not going to happen. So you can take all the supplements in the world, you can change your diet, you can do whatever you want. But if you don't take care of the foundation problems, then you're never going to be optimal. You're never going to be healthy. All right, so if you want to address adrenaline resistance, then you have to keep that stuff in mind. Now, supplements that you can take that are good for lowering cortisol, I like phosphatidylserine, and I sell a supplement called EndoAmp on my website, and that has a high dose of phosphatidylserine, about 800 milligrams, which is what has been shown in studies to lower cortisol. It's the only supplement that has ever been proven to lower the stress hormone cortisol. So sometimes when you have adrenaline resistance, and adrenal fatigue goes hand in hand with adrenaline resistance, what happens is you wake up in the morning and you have really low energy. You have to take a while to get going. And then in the evening, you can't go to sleep. Your energy goes through the roof. So what's happening is you're waking up with low morning cortisol, and then late at night, the cortisol is going way up and you're energetic. That's the opposite of what you want. You want to flip-flop that. So a couple things I like to do is have people take phosphatidylserine in the evening around dinner time. That helps bring down your evening cortisol level so that when you wake up, it'll be at the opposite, a little bit higher. And then I also like supplements such as Korean ginseng, which help with the healthy cortisol response, and Siberian Ginseng made by Herb Farm. And what I like about Siberian Ginseng is that it ensures that the hormonal pathway goes from pregnenolone to DHEA to testosterone rather than from pregnenolone to progesterone to cortisol. And we want to avoid that cortisol pathway when you have really high cortisol levels. But if you're someone that wakes up with low morning cortisol, then Korean ginseng will help bring up your cortisol levels in the morning. And then you take something like phosphatidylserine in the evening to bring down your cortisol levels and get you back into a healthy rhythm. Other things I like for deep sleep and relaxation, I love magnesium oil. That's my #1 favorite supplement. That actually helps increase DHEA naturally, as I've discussed previously. It doesn't shut down your own production like hormone replacement would. And then also it actually increases your intracellular levels of magnesium really well, much better than oral magnesium, which gets eaten up by the GI tract. And then I also like melatonin, a small dose, around 3 milligrams of melatonin. Melatonin helps lower the stress, the estrogen from the adrenal glands, which is estrone. It's a stress-related estrogen called estrone. And that's another one that is attributed to accumulating stomach fat. And with women, when they go through menopause, what happens is their other estrogens start declining, estradiol and estriol. And estrone kicks into full gear because our adrenal glands are a secondary source for hormones. As we get older, they become the primary source. And estrone basically pulls fat away from the glutes and the legs and accumulates it around the stomach, which is why a lot of older women find that when they pass 50 or so, they start accumulating more stomach fat. A lot of that is from the estrone, so we need to bring their estriol back up. And that's a whole other discussion for another time. But basically with adrenaline resistance, remember this: you need to practice restoration exercises, you need to cut out all the sugar and other inflammatory foods in your diet, you need to eradicate life stresses such as a job you can't stand, or a relationship you can't stand, or financial stresses. You need to make more money and do better so you don't have financial stress, which is a huge creator of stress. And then we need to make sure that we sleep properly. Take stuff like magnesium oils, take stuff like phosphatidylserine, which help you unwind, and also take stuff like melatonin to make sure you get a really deep sleep, get some really good deep sleep at night. All right, that's all for adrenaline resistance. Next time we'll come back, we'll start talking about some of the sex hormones like testosterone, DHT, estrogen, and DHEA. See you next time. What do you think, Grover, huh? You like that? Did you understand everything? Did you get all that? What about you, Mickey? Did you get all that? Did you pay attention? This guy always falls asleep whenever I talk. I don't know what it is. Maybe I have a soothing voice. Maybe I'm boring. Not sure.